Hi, I'm Chris Timmons. I'm the Artistic Director and Acting Executive Director for Theatre Charlotte, and I've been with Theatre Charlotte for 15 years.
I'm Jackie Timmons. I'm the Director of Development and Marketing at Theatre Charlotte, and this is my 14th season with the theater.
15 years. So I started out as the Technical Director for Theatre Charlotte and eventually was elevated to the Associate Artistic Director, which gave me a little more input and into the creative aspect of things, show selection and things like that. And then obviously we hit the pandemic and the fire. We had our Executive Director, Ron Law, retire during all of that. And so I've been now the Artistic Director and Acting Executive Director for about 2 years or so. Feels like a lifetime at this point. But yeah, I've got about close to, I think, 100 productions at Theatre Charlotte heading into this season.
So I started at Theatre Charlotte in season 80 as the Director of Development. It was the theater's first Director of Development. And it was a challenge coming in and trying to raise some money right away. And of course that was 2008, which was a difficult year in Charlotte with banking industry and everything else going crazy. But we made it through, we survived. It's been really exciting seeing Theatre Charlotte evolve over the years. It's always fun seeing new faces come through the doors, but it's also really special seeing people who started at the theater as children come back as adults.
Hello everybody, my name is Pat Heiss, and my love affair with Theatre Charlotte began almost 60 years ago. I came to Charlotte in 1961 and met some interesting people who said, "You've got to come to the Little Theatre of Charlotte." And I thought, okay, I can do that. I love theater. What's it all about? So they told me about this community theater that was really a community theater. So I made my way to 501 Queens Road, and my very first day I walked in and I was greeted by this very tall, black, standard poodle that I found out later was named Pepper, who belonged to the director, Mr. Tom Humble. When I first met Tom at the theater in 1962, I, of course, was in awe of this man, and I learned so much from him. And he would smoke a cigarette with this very long cigarette holder. He made the Little Theatre of Charlotte the next place to be seen. Tom could go to any of the interior design stores, the furniture stores in Charlotte to dress his sets. And on the final day of the performance, those pieces were sold right off the stage. He was kind, he was giving, he was a good teacher, and that's what made him so very special for so many years. And so I looked around that building and was given this grand tour, and I immediately fell in love. And I felt at home, and I started volunteering for anything and everything that I could do, whether it was helping with props or makeup. God forbid they'd let me sew. That I could not do. Nor could I wield a hammer. Even to this day, Chris Timmons knows better than to ask me to handle a hammer. But everything, I even learned about lighting and sound and even some stage managing. So I did all of that. And it was 1963 when I decided to audition for something called Speaking of Murder. So I auditioned. I was cast in the lead role. And that was it. I was hooked. There isn't anything about this theater that is negative, was negative, none of it. And so for all of the following decades, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and currently in the 2000s, I had a place and was able to do a whole lot of shows. And I am so grateful and thankful that I could.
So Theatre Charlotte has a rich, long history in the community. It's actually the longest running, continually producing community theater in the state of North Carolina, and the oldest arts group in Charlotte. So we're celebrating our 95th season.
The Little Theater of Charlotte, as it was known for a very long time, really started back in the 20s, in the late 20s, as the Charlotte Drama League.
Started out in 1927 as the Little Theater movement was being studied in Charlotte and throughout the country. Association of Collegiate Women created this reading group and to study the Little Theater movement and bring it to Charlotte. So the first production was in 1928.
The ladies were doing their shows in the basement of the library that you know is the main library today.
The first couple of decades, Theater Charlotte traveled around Charlotte and produced theater in a number of different locations before moving to its permanent home.
They moved to a couple of places, but it was 1931 when the ladies met Mary Myers Dwell. Mary was the daughter of John Springs Myers, who built the Myers Park you know today. She was a wonderful woman who just worked very hard and was able to get going the Mint Museum that you know today. And among the Mint Museum and other arts organizations, she is the lady who sold us the land at 501 Queens Road. So the very first show that was done at the Little Theater, Outward Bound, that was the name of the show. One of the performers was a young man named Walter Hook, who followed in the footsteps of his father to become an outstanding architect here in Charlotte. And Walter Hook Jr. was the architect for 501 Queens Road.
And we've been there ever since, and again, continue to produce theater that's unique to Charlotte, using talent from the community, backstage, on stage, front of house, all of those folks that you see when you walk in the doors. They're all from Charlotte and the surrounding area.
Theater Charlotte is home.
Theater Charlotte, to me, is family. It is community.
Theater Charlotte is a home place for me.
Theater Charlotte is an experience.
Theater Charlotte is my holiday season, and Theater Charlotte is and was my first theater home here in Charlotte.
Theater Charlotte is yours.
To me, Theater Charlotte is community. It's people.
Theater Charlotte is really a living, learning laboratory where you're able to be there and learn by doing. And that's part of the magic, I think, of the theater.
It is magic, a lot of magic. But that's what, when I think of Theater Charlotte, and my theater family in general, but with Theater Charlotte, I mean, it's about family, because you create a family, you create magic, and with that family magic, you have a fantastic community.
Theater Charlotte is, for me, and I guess folks like me who just love creating, it's a sanctuary, but also it's at times feels like an engine factory or something where you're just kind of pumping out, what folks like us create. It's art.
It's, one of the first places I ever felt truly safe and happy and excited about being myself. It's always been the place that I can come back to. It's always been community. It has been friendship. It has been support and acceptance.
Theater Charlotte is home and community to me. It's a place where everybody is welcome and our community comes together from all different walks of life, all different experiences, backgrounds, and comes together to experience theater.
I have more than one home place, but it is certainly a consistent one for 40 years, and that's pretty important to somebody. A home place where I find friends who become family, where I feel comfortable, but also feel challenged as an artist, as an actor. I'm proud of it, and I'm happy it's in my life.
From the shows that they put on to being a part of the ensemble to the people and community that you get to meet, overall I'd say it's just a great experience.
I think back over the years of all the time I've spent there and how many friends I've met there and how many different thousands of people have been connected to the theater, both on stage, backstage, in the house, in the lobby, seeing shows. But it's yours. It's there for you. It's there for Charlotte. It's there for our community. And it's been doing it for 95 years now, and it will continue to be yours for 95 more.
I've often been asked why I've been there so long, what keeps you going, and it truly is about the people. I think about the people that I met. My first day there, we had a work day, and there were so many volunteers on site helping to get the set built and paint the restrooms and the lobby. So many of those people I've kept in touch with and followed as they've moved on in their lives and had families and different careers that have taken them other places. But ultimately, Theater Charlotte is about people and community.
I have just a little story that I'll tell you. As an actor, I learned something at a very tender age in my young career. We were doing The Pleasure of His Company in 1963. Tom was in the show along with several other folks, and I was doing props and helping with this, thus, and so. And opening night, well, actually it was a pre-opening night, I decided with this fellow that was working with me, let's have some fun. Let's do things you're not supposed to do. So I put like some pepper in water glasses that were off stage. And I saw some letters and I glued them together. And there was a French telephone and I made sure you couldn't lift to the receiver. I did everything and anything you could think of. Well, it was about curtain time and I wasn't aware at the time that performers came out and checked all their personal props. And lo and behold, I heard this scream. And Tom Humble, the director, came running out to see what was the matter and found out all of the stuff that had been done by somebody. Well, Tom would not take the curtain up that night until the person came forward. Oh Lordy, I knew I had to do something. So I stood up, put up my hand, and said what I had done, but it was fun and just a joke, I thought. I learned very quickly that night that's something you don't do and never must do in the theater. Tom did not send me home. He made me work the show, and then he made me go home and write letters to everybody in the cast and apologize for my dastardly deeds. I thought my career was over at the little theater. But it wasn't, but I learned a real hard lesson. And I say this to any performer, I don't care how much you want to have fun. You can have your fun, but you don't mess with personal props.
I'm Josh Loxton. I'm the director of A Christmas Carol this year. I've been kind of attached to the show since 2015. It was one of the first shows I got involved with when I moved down to Charlotte. Throughout the years, I've done several roles. Christmas Present, I've been Marley, Businessman, I've played several support roles. And this year, stepping up to be director. So I got involved with the first show back in 2015. I think I've been in it every year since. I took 2019 off because my daughter was born. But other than that, even through the COVID year, yeah, pretty much every year. It's kind of a staple in my house. I have to come out for the show because the show changes every year, but it's still the same show.
I'm Dennis Delamar. I've been with Theater Charlotte for about 40 years, but I span 5 decades, starting in the 80s, and now I'm in the 2020s, and I'm glad to be here. I'll start with the directing. I've been proud of all of my directing work, but some of my pieces I directed were very bold. The first one to kind of cross into a new territory for Theater Charlotte, The Full Monty in 2009 that I directed. It was material that Ron Law, who was in charge of things then, he says, do it as written. And we didn't have to edit a thing, and that was pretty exciting. Another show I was proud of a drama was The Normal Heart in 2015. Same year I did La Cage aux Folles as a director. So they covered some material that were close to my heart, about love and who loves who. And but now as a performer through the years, so many stand out. Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady is one of my signature roles. I say that because I did it at CP in '89, CPCC. I did it at Theater Charlotte in '96 and again at CPCC in 2010. So Theater Charlotte sandwiches those three experiences, and I loved that show and that role, big role. But I've had small roles too. It's like The Diviners in the early '90s. That just a touching show to be a part of. The Boys Next Door, playing someone who's autistic and a little bit Down syndrome. I really appreciated that opportunity. Oh, the last really big one was playing Grandpa in You Can't Take It With You in 2016. And that was very satisfying, that role and that big, wonderful cast and Mitzi Corrigan's direction. And it was a mixed race cast, which was so wonderful for our times to kind of be colorblind and bring everybody up there. And it was such a good production. So proud of that one. I was the director of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof at Theater Charlotte. It was a beautiful production with an extraordinary cast. Our costumes, our set was wonderful.
I was actually slated in 2020, I believe. Dennis Delmar was directing Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. And so I was like, oh, I want to be in that show. Dennis cast me as Cooper.
And we were about ready to open. I saw it on a Thursday night right before Tech. And the next day, Friday the 13th of March, 2020.
COVID happened. So we were right at opening, a week from opening. And then they came in and we're basically like, sorry, guys, we have a pandemic. The world might be ending. No, but it wasn't really like that. But it was for everyone's safety, and we're very thankful for that.
I was feeling the hurt of having to leave that set and those people in that show to the changes.
I'm so pissed because we were like, I'm one of these people who doesn't like seeing myself. I don't like talking myself up at all or anything. For me, it's all about what you're doing on stage and enjoying it at the moment. But I will say that was going to be a great show. I'm so mad that we didn't get to do it.
Hello, I'm Stuart Spencer, and I have been working with Theater Charlotte since 2004. So when I moved to Charlotte in 2004, I came here without any work connections, without any life connections. So I reached out to Theater Charlotte on literally my second day living in Charlotte. I met with Bob Tully and Biff Edge, who were on staff back then, and they connected me with the theater and started working me backstage almost immediately. Over the past 18 years now, coming up on 19, I have been in backstage for probably 15, 20 productions, and I've lost count, but we're probably up to 10, 15, ranging from Full Monty to Seussical to Multiple Christmas Carols to Arsenic and Old Lace to Music Man to the list goes on and on and on. And then also I've been directing over the past several seasons. I've directed a couple Christmas Carols, and I'm directing Picasso at La Pinagile this year. I think it was Final Dress of Avenue Q, and the toilet started running in the bathroom, and I was like, I can fix this. So this is easy. So I go to fix it, and it's all of a sudden there's bubbling coming up from the sink in the bathroom. And 2 hours later, I'm still working on the bathroom and never could fix it. But I spent the entire opening night or final dress, whichever one it was, I believe there was an invited audience, trying to fix the toilet in the men's bathroom. It's not what I signed up for. It's not what I was there for. But you know what? You strap up, you pull your sleeves up, and you do what you have to do for an older building.
One really special thing about Theater Charlotte is family. Especially my family, for me personally. My daughter, Allie, was born on opening night of season 85. It was a show called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. So a funny thing happened on the way to the theater for opening night, and we diverted and went to the hospital and had Allie. So she has grown up at Theater Charlotte. She has spent many a day crawling around on the carpet in the offices, and then, attending board meetings and seeing basically every single show that wasn't beyond inappropriate. So A Christmas Carol, when she was 2.5 months old, was her very first show ever. She sat through the whole thing. She enjoyed it. Scrooge carried her around during intermission. So it's a really special place. She's fallen in love with a few shows. She particularly loved Memphis, which was when she was 5 years old. She really loved that one and went around town singing all the songs. And she is really excited to be a part of Christmas Carol, and also super excited for Something Rotten, because that is another show that she loves and sings the songs to. And there are some really wonderful cast members who have been a part of her life, seeing her grow up, that she, considers family.
Hi, my name is Hank West, and I have been part of the Theater Charlotte family. Oh my gosh, over 30 years. So yeah, a good long time. Not since the very beginning. I'm not that old, but over 30 years. So yeah. I started out back in 1988. I understudied for a show called Biloxi Blues, but then I went on and I played Amadeus in Amadeus back in 91, and then did Noises Off. A number of shows, Our Sacred Old Lace. But I'm doing Christmas Carol now, and actually it's my third time doing the part of Scrooge with Theater Charlotte. So I guess makes my 12th production, if you count all 3 times. I identify with Scrooge in a lot of ways. I don't know why, but it's been interesting to be playing him with Theater Charlotte. Like I say, this is my 3rd year, but the first year was the year COVID hit. So we were not able to perform at the theater space. However, we rehearsed there. We actually filmed it on the stage, and then we actually performed it outside at a wonderful church. And because it was COVID, it was a very limited cast. The script was altered a little because it was, I think we maybe had 10, maybe 12 people total in that production. So it was very surreal. Everyone wore masks, but we had platforms that we were working with. Some of the outdoor scenes, or some of the scenes that were actual platforms on the stage. And I will never forget, it's funny now, it was weird then. I was on the platform, I think with the Ghost of Christmas Future. We were talking about the blocking with this encounter with the Ghost of Christmas Future. And I was saying, well, do you think you would back up? And I backed up and I fell off the platform. No one came to me. No one. And finally, Chris comes up close to me, not right up, and said, do you want a pack of green peas or something? Because he was afraid I got hurt. But that's where we were at that time because of freaking COVID. People were afraid to get close to anyone. But luckily, I didn't get hurt. I don't know. One thing about maybe they planned that. That's exactly what happened. They planned it. Ah!
My name is Becky Kirby, and I first started working with Theater Charlotte in 2020. So I have done A Christmas Carol with Theater Charlotte for the last 2 years. This is my 3rd year. I have had the privilege of being Mrs. Fezziwig for all 3 shows. I have also done A Midsummer Night's Dream. I was Peter Quince. And then I also participated in their murder experience at Camp North End. So in 2020, when Theater Charlotte was forced to do A Christmas Carol outside, we were performing on a wooden deck, and it had just rained. I'm wearing a really big dress. Mrs. Fezziwig is in a very large green dress that they very generously built for me the first year I did it. And I'm so excited to wear it again. And I'd managed to do the entire show without slipping, falling, until I go to make my last exit off of the stage. And I go to turn around the wing to leave, and I fall, but I don't just fall, I kiss the deck. My face was on the deck, and most people when they fall stand up, but I certainly didn't want to disturb the performance. So I decided it would be a lot less obvious if I army crawled myself off the stage. So I army crawled myself around with Tom Allis, who was playing Mr. Fezziwig that year, just pushing my tush from behind. And I go off the stage and I see Marilyn Bain and several other cast members just looking so confused and so disturbed by the scene that was before them. And to top it off, from the crowd, I hear, "Oh no, is she okay?" from like this little tiny voice. So that really just sums up my Christmas Carol experience. But all joking aside, Christmas Carol really truly is the highlight of my season, and I look forward to it every year, and I'm so blessed to be a part of the production.
Well, I'm Marilyn Bain.
And I'm Alan Andrews. And I started working with Theater Charlotte in 2013, left to go to school, came back for auditions for Christmas Carol in 2020.
I didn't start with Theater Charlotte until 2020 because I just moved to Charlotte in 2019. Auditioned for my first show with them, that is 2020 version of A Christmas Carol, and that's all sure.
A Christmas Carol auditions were the first in-person auditions that I was able to find throughout the pandemic. So I was really excited just to be in a physical theater, physically auditioning. And then for the Zoom readings, I saw this guy, and I was like, ooh, who is this person?
In grainy Zoom quality, but we saw each other.
Yeah, and you didn't make it to the first read-through. And they showed me a picture of him. They were like, oh, he isn't here today, but that's who's gonna play your husband. And I said, ooh, he's real cute. So...
Or did they hand you my headshot?
Yes,
Okay.
They literally did. They passed it around for everyone to see. So that was really nice. 2020 Christmas Carol, I played Belle and Elizabeth, but I auditioned for Mrs. Fezziwig. And it wasn't until Becky came in and until you came in that they changed their minds about me. Did
They
you
said
know that?
we gotta put those two together.
They said those two together would be a hoot.
Right, and so then I got cast as Fred and Fred's wife, Elizabeth.
And that's how that came to be.
Okay, that came to be. And then
Yes.
they needed a warm body to play Ghost of Christmas
No.
Future, and they put me in a mask and a creepy Spirit of Halloween robe.
You're the best warm body I've ever seen.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Nothing but love and support. Thank you.
Talking to you has always been really easy and really fun.
Despite my best efforts.
Despite your best efforts. And for a long time, I was like, I'm not sure if he likes me, I don't know. But I remember one time you brought me an apple, and you were like, hey, are you hungry? Do you want this apple?
Like a Disney villain.
Right. Apple?
Do you like this
Do you
apple?
want this apple? And I was like, oh my god, sure.
Eat my apple.
And then I was like, I wonder if he brought anyone else an apple or if it was just me. And then you asked me out on a date, and you were originally like, hey, do you want to talk about the show over food? And I was like, absolutely, this can't be a date, we're just talking about the show.
I think I pretty definitively made it sound like a date, but there's some debate here still.
You never know. You never know.
2 years later.
So, 2 years later. Does he really like me? Who's to say?
And I'll add one moment in particular. When I knew it was going to happen was the very first in-person rehearsal at Theater Charlotte, at the actual space, not over Zoom. And I'm just, everyone walks in kind of timidly. We don't know each other yet. We haven't shared 2 words. And I sit down in my little seat. I'm watching the scene play out. And then this one comes down. She had just done her scene. She's coming back to her scene. Somebody says, Mary Lynn, when you come back to your seat, you gotta do it quietly. And she did this like caricaturish, very animated sneak thing back to her seat. And it was so silly and it was so goofy. I was like, yeah, I know. That's gonna happen.
Oh.
I just knew it.
Oh, and there was one other thing. We were backstage we were gonna run something, but you and I just kept talking and talking. And before we knew it, Chris peeked his head back and was like, hey, rehearsal's ended. You guys can go.
Oh yeah, they're about to shut off the lights.
Yeah. And we had no idea.
They were locking up the door.
We were just talking, having a nice conversation.
The janitor was
Everything
there with his
else had
drum.
ended.
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, that felt really special to me. Because I could just talk to you and not know what else is going on.
Right. I'm glad I have that effect.
Yeah. we had like a little thing, like before the show starts backstage, we would just like lean on each other. And yeah.
Well, this
we
is just
we
adorable.
would just
Oh,
feel
yeah,
like-
like, were we standing up?
Yeah, we were standing up.
Just backstage in the
And
wings?
we would just do this.
Yeah.
I feel like this helped us with our trust and our connection playing husband and wife. People literally do like the balance transference as like an act.
Yeah, we did trust falls, didn't we?
Yeah,
Didn't we
yeah.
Like we were just joking around.
We
like,
were-
surprise
this is all-
trust falls.
This is
That's another
all
good
technical
technique.
stuff that we're doing here to bond.
Right. So really, without even realizing it, we were doing the
We
work.
were doing
We were doing the acting
deep
work.
that was
backstory.
necessary to play Fred and Elizabeth
Good actors
in
prepare
A Christmas Carol.
and flirt around backstage. That's good actors prepared.
That we do.
Can you just cut all that up?
Tiny Tim witnessed quite a lot. He grew up so fast. And that's a wrap.
I had just been directing with Chris Christmas Carol right before. I think we closed on the 16th, 17th, somewhere in there, from a production out at Christ South Church outside during the pandemic.
We struck everything, that last performance, brought it into the theater. I remember walking into the theater and bringing items back in, and we all just kind of, anytime you're in this space, and especially like right now when the lights are dark or everything, it's just really cool. You get kind of a feeling when you're in here. And I remember just kind of taking it in before we left.
And we had struck everything. We brought it all back to the theater. We put it on the stage. We put it in the house. And I said, do we need to move anything else? Should we put it anywhere? No, we'll deal with it after Christmas.
It was December 28th, 2020. My phone was blowing up with text messages and phone calls from our securities company. And often that late at night is usually a sensor has kind of wiggled loose or something of that sort. But as the phone calls continued, it was clear that there was something else going on. I answered the phone and was told that there was a fire at the theater and that I needed to stop by. And I kind of thought, well, this is just a little fire. The police just need me to sign some paperwork, and that's it.
So on the night of the fire, Chris's phone was ringing several times, and then he found out what was going on and headed off in the middle of the night at 2 a.m.-ish for the theater, and I just sort of waited at home by the phone trying to see what was going to come of it. We had expected basically nothing.
And I drive down and turn onto Queens Road, and the sky is just lit up with fire trucks. And so I walk closer to the building, and I can see the smoke coming out, and I see firefighters on the lawn. And so it was clear that it was more than just a little fire.
An hour or so later, when I got some texts from him, it was not nothing. It was a lot of fire trucks and a lot of smoke, and not the images that I was hoping for in the middle of the night or ever to come from the theater. So,
the first thought when you walk in there is that this is it. This is the end. And it took a few moments to kind of digest things and kind of think about where we were.
So the funny thing about the fire, and funny, not funny, haha, I still have the very vivid memory of lying in bed on the day of the fire and being 3/4 asleep and getting a text message from Chris Timmons that says, the theater's burning. And I was kind of groggy, and that's not what that says. And then within a few minutes, he started sending me photos.
And I saw it on Facebook, I think I saw a post of a news article that was like live breaking news that the theater was on fire.
And I was just shocked. I knew that COVID had shut down so much. We were all right. We were working from home and like locked up and isolated. But to then hear this like second tragedy, it was devastating. And it genuinely felt like we might not come back from this.
We got back out there the next day and looked at the damage again and started assessing things.
All of the beautiful things we did have, our curtain, our gorgeous curtain, the seats. If you have been to the theater and are facing the stage, the right-hand side of the theater is where the fire was, under the floor. So no inspector would have found that. It took out sound equipment, lighting equipment, the seats, the carpet.
And it was definitely scary. A lot more damage than I had expected, especially all the smoke damage. You know, we went through the things that had been on our desks, and basically everything was covered in soot and smoke. So one of the first things we had to do the next morning on December 28th was to share the news. So we had, a lot of end of year giving asks that we're all prepared to send out. So had to cancel all of those and write one of the hardest emails.
When I walked in for the first time, I was just overwhelmed with the smell. I actually took my son in with Chris and some other folks, but we walked in and my son was terrified. And I was like, no, everything's safe now. The power was out. Obviously, it was dark and dreary and scary. And my son immediately went home and started Theater Charmant, which is a theater in our neighborhood that has never actually produced a show. But his whole point was that he wanted to produce a show to make a donation to Theater Charlotte. So Theater Charlotte, we live on Charmant Street, so it became Theater Charmant. So to this day, he still talks about trying to help with fire restoration through Theater Charmant.
December 27th or 8th was the fire. And when I heard about it, I realized it was happening exactly when I had a fall down home on the coast and the rescue squad had to come pick me up and take me to the hospital. And while I was in that rescue squad, Theater Charlotte was burning. And that's why I can remember that date. In my mind, I thought, what else is going to happen?
A couple of days later, somebody sent me a message and they were like, oh, did the theater burn during your show? And I was like, what are you talking about? And I said, oh, look on Facebook. And I saw it on Facebook. I saw it and I was like, oh, it's burned? And I immediately was just like, no. I thought the whole place had burned and I was like, man, there's so much history in that place.
There are some people that thought the building had burned out. Thank goodness it didn't. But it did do a number.
Actually, I had I had all the Scrooge props, all the office props in my car, so I had taken it home. I hadn't even took them back to the theater. So they did not get tainted with smoke. So I was able to keep all the office props that Scrooge had in my home.
It was none of us had been through this. None of us on staff had been through anything like this. So we were kind of on our own to figure out what the next steps were and how to proceed and what questions to ask and who to call. And so it's been a long journey, and we've looked at it from a lot of different angles. But ultimately, what kept us going and what has really been on the front of our minds is that this theater means a lot to people, and we have to get it up and running again. We have to keep it here for all of the people that have been involved with this theater for so long and the people that we haven't touched yet.
So the first thing that had to happen, we did have to remove a lot of stuff, props, costumes, equipment that wasn't damaged, things that we had to get out of the building so that things could happen to make it whole again. So thank goodness, Chris and his wife, Jackie, worked diligently to find spaces to be able to put things, hide things, store things, as well as continue programming.
And even though we weren't in our building during our 94th season, we did a full season of theater throughout the city in different locations.
We continued to do shows all over Charlotte, and we're so thankful to all those wonderful people that opened their doors to let us come in and put on a show.
I mean, obviously we had the road trip season, and I was in 2 shows that season, last season. I was in All Together Now in November, and then in March I was in Smoke on the Mountain, which was at the Great Aunt Stella Center. Within those 2 places, they both had very differences in how much of a theater it actually was and how much work it was to get ready, and did we have a dressing room and did we not have a dressing room, and how many costume changes did we have or could we have, and so there was a lot of that's different. But I think the overwhelming drumbeat through all of that has been we've got to keep the theater in front of people.
Obviously, Theater Charlotte and the entire staff, Chris, Jackie, Nancy, all the directing and crew and everyone are resilient, and they made it happen. You know, the on the road, the touring season, that's a feat. And so getting to be in a show still with Theater Charlotte in a different venue and see shows in different venues and still see the heart and the joy and the love of Theater Charlotte. It was powerful. Of course, we missed our home, but it was really wonderful to see this team of people like just keep pushing through and keep making art happen and keep making this community alive. It was a little bizarre to be, you know, I think we were in a church, which they were so lovely and so welcoming, but some of the material I was like, am I allowed to say this in a church? But you know, it was really fun.
You know, it's been hard. There's been a lot of days where it just feels like enough's enough. But we've kept going. We're looking forward to inviting people back into the space, and then we're looking forward to what we can do moving forward. This season marks our 16th annual production of A Christmas Carol, which in and of itself is quite a legacy. There's just something about this story, something about the people that come out and audition. We get so many new people to our stage, to the community. It's fitting in a way because our last production in that building was A Christmas Carol in 2020. It was during the pandemic, so we couldn't have an audience, but we were on stage and we recorded it. So in a way, it's fitting that Christmas Carol was the last show in that building, and it's going to be the first show when we return to that building.
Yes, this is the first time I've directed A Christmas Carol. I've done Christmas Carol, I think I've done it about 6 to 7 times here. I love this story. I love Christmas Carol because it's not your typical happy, cheery, you know, Christmas story. It has so many themes in it of redemption and being the people we should be and helping out our fellow man. But it's not, I mean, it's frightening. It's more of a ghost story. You feel the pain that he actually has and why he's this person, but then also that he can live a different life. I really like Hank Scrooge. I think I've told him it's one of my favorites. You can definitely tell he's not as just vile as most Scrooges that I've seen. You can tell it's more about him being a hurt individual. And he is hurt, and so he lashes out at others. He lashes out at Fred. He lashes out at the people in the streets.
My name is Dorian Herring, and it's my first season with Theater Charlotte. So I'm playing Fred in A Christmas Carol, Scrooge's happy-go-lucky nephew, who is trying to convince him to reconnect with the world and to have some Christmas spirit. So hopefully I can get that done. I enjoy the role a lot. I think that there's a very interesting layer beyond just beneath the surface when it comes to Fred and his own motivations, and so I think it's cool reading, you know, a character that seems so one-dimensional, and then you kind of get into it and you kind of see dive into like his motivations and things like that. I think a challenge for me is that sometimes I find myself identifying more with Scrooge than Fred. but I think that that's the fun of, you know, getting up there on stage and being able to, you know, create a new reality for yourself.
There's a part in the top where Fred is talking to him about because I fell in love, and he says, because you fell in love, what do you know about love? And we decided to, he wanted to have the ring that Belle gives back and to twist that and to that kind of be a burn for him.
Why did you get married?
Because I fell in love.
Because you fell in love? Ah! What do you know about love?
right? And so he does that on stage. And so the fact that he would put that much thought into that character to something that, you know, really out of 10 people, maybe one person will pick up on that, 2 people will pick up on that, because it's a live performance. But it's not so much about that, it's so much about the portrayal in his head and the universe that he's seeing in his head.
Excuse me, Mr. Morris.
Yes, what?
Mr. Scrooge,
sir.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, sir, you're there to talk. Guy?
Oh, he's such a tight-fisted.
Squeezing. Grasping.
Wrenching.
Scraping.
Clutching. Comical snap.
I do find little differences with Scrooge. I have over the past 3 years now. This is my 3rd year, so you know, I find little different things, different nuances, and a different take. Maybe I look at the script and I see something I didn't say before. Oh, well, this helps. Maybe I should say this is what's in the script. This cast is just wonderful. A lot of people I don't know. It's like, you know, you're creating a new family every time you do it.
I really wanted to stick closer to the script this year. There are some differences, though. The Ghost of Christmas Past is played by 3 actors. But I wanted to split that role up into 3 different characters to do sort of like a Greek chorus, fates sort of thing. Certainly not evil, but they represent the different parts of Scrooge's past. A very young actor, your childhood past, right? Because everybody has their childhood past, which is probably the faintest and least memorable, right, on certain things. But also pretty happy for most folks, and that certainly seems to be the case with our version. And then, you know, we have another actor in their 20s, the ambitious young past, more playful at life, but certainly heading down that hill of focus and being successful. And then an actor, certainly, and she's not old, I'm not saying she's old. Everyone is coming at me for that. Our older past, which is kind of a little more strict and stern in her pronunciation and just certainly, or just her demeanor. And that was meant to be more of Scrooge's recent past.
I am Randy Steffinger. I am Kaylee Ruller.
Hi, I'm Eden Osmond.
And we are all playing the Ghost of Christmas Past. Well, I think it's interesting because there are several scenes where Scrooge is looking at his past, and there is one when he's a child, and one where he's a little older, and then one where he is older still. So we sort of mirror that in the show.
I also feel like from an actor's perspective, it's really interesting to be one character with 3 people. So trying to figure that out and like collaborate on one role is like an experience I've never had before. Like often doing character work, it's very individual, and the fact that we can kind of like pick each other's brains about how do you see this character being, I think that's like a really cool opportunity to work with your cast so intimately.
And what I personally notice about all 3 of us having the same part is that I feel like it's really cool how we all 3 have our own personalities. I feel like that's really cool.
Let's stumble through this, guys. It's okay if we make a mistake. We'll go back, we'll fix it. But let's just do a stumble through real quick, all right?
We are moving among the spirits and shadows of past lives.
Darkness and mist vanish. Onward to a clear, cold winter day.
And so let's start our movement.
Darkness and mist vanish. Onward to a clear, cold winter day.
At our feet, an open country road, a familiar road, snow-covered fields on either hand.
So just, you'll kind of have to walk and look, and it's almost this split middle of those double doors, which it'll be dark, so it's going to be hard to see, but you can always remember this here. So it's like you'll come here, this way, and then take a step back. Okay?
And mist vanish. Onward to a clear, cold winter day.
At our feet, an open country road, a familiar road, snow-covered fields on either hand.
Oh. The willow tree next to the bridge that looks over the fence.
Your lip is showing. What is that upon your cheek?
Nothing, Spirit. Lead me where you will.
You recollect the way?
No, I can walk it blindfold.
Strange to have forgotten it for so many years.
This is my first show ever, and what I usually like about the show is that when we first meet people, you always bond so close, and I really like how you get to practice lines with other people, even though you don't have that part. I like attention, so this will cut out for me.
I'm Beth Killian, and this is my second year as the costume designer for Theater Charlotte's production of A Christmas Carol. It's always fun to design A Christmas Carol because it's a perfect way to get me into the Christmas mood and the holiday spirit. So for this show, there were about 30 people with 2 or 3 looks per person. And the trickiest thing, especially with this space, is having every look be its own type, its own style, without having to add completely new everything. So having a bunch of set individual looks per person without adding 20 pieces per person.
This book, for example, holds the key to financial success. With financial success comes personal success, right?
Hit that back wall with your voice. Give me a line, what you say.
I don't know, sir.
What was that?
I don't know, sir.
I can't hear James being too quiet.
I don't know, sir.
Better. You'll pick it up. Ha! Nonsense. Throw it down on the ground as you're leaving. Okay. Yeah. What's up, James?
This script, I exit with my Robinson Crusoe
Yeah,
and
you-
the financial.
You'll pick it. He's gonna put the financial book on your desk, and so you'll come over and you'll pick Robinson Crusoe up, and then you'll kind of take the financial book, and you'll have both books walking off. You're gonna, as you're coming off, you're gonna hand that to Hattie, and Hattie's gonna come on with the financial book, and that's gonna signify he threw away Robinson Crusoe. He doesn't read fiction or adventure or anything like that. He's just all about business now. Okay.
Oh, why must you read such ridiculousness?
Robinson Crusoe. Ridiculous, huh?
I don't know, sir.
There are far more important and life-changing subjects that you should be exploring, young Master Scrooge, instead of this nonsense. This book, for example, holds the key to financial success. And with financial success comes personal success, right?
Papa!
My dearest fan, oh, it's lovely to see you. How did you come to be here?
I've come to bring you home. Home for good and all, forever and ever. My name is Genevieve Britt, and I play the part of Fan, Want, and a Caroler. This is my first show at Theater Charlotte, and this is my first professional show. And I'm excited to do this because I'm doing it with my dad and 2 of my friends that I've known from my school and my elementary school. And I liked learning about the cast and becoming friends with all of them and working with them throughout the show to create The Christmas Carol.
Hi, I'm Yasmin Fairman, and I play Belle in A Christmas Carol. This is my first show at Theater Charlotte, and something I enjoy is definitely meeting the new people. They're so sweet, and they give me a lot of good notes, so it helps me grow as an actor.
I'm Hope Wright. I'm a caroler.
I'm Steve Shure. I'm a few characters and also the minstrel in the Fezziwig Party. And it's great to be able to play and be part of a wonderful company like this. This is my first production in Charlotte.
Yeah, it's nice to bring the music into the show because that's a big part of Christmas for a lot of people, is the music that you get to hear in church or walking around the grocery store, anywhere. So it's nice to be able to bring that element to this very old story.
And she's really, really good.
And he's really, really good.
Hello, my name's Logan Campbell, and I play Tiny Tim. What I like about Theater Charlotte is we try to get things done really quickly so we can just run them and we'll feel comfortable. I also really enjoy hanging out with the cast members during downtime and helping them with their lines.
And something I really like about the character is that Tiny Tim's very modest. He doesn't like to lie. He doesn't like to be rude. He just is very thankful.
To Mr. Scrooge, the founder of our feast.
The founder of our feast, indeed. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon.
My dear, the children, it's Christmas Day.
It should be on Christmas Day, on which one drinks the health of such an odious, stingy, hard, unfeeling man as Ebenezer Scrooge.
Nobody knows it better than you, my poor Robert.
Dear, please, Christmas Day. It is Christmas Day. We are to be together all this day. You all make me so happy. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless us.
God bless us, everyone!
With Future this year, we wanted to go away from some of the puppetry work that we'd seen in the past, just because I wanted a more natural feel to that character. There are some really cool technical elements as well with that entrance and other parts of the Future scene that are really going to have folks like freaking out a little bit.
Am I in the presence of the Spirit yet to come?
Oh, Spirit, I fear you more than any of the specters before you, but as I know, your purpose is to do me good. And as I hope to be another man from what I was, I will bear your company with a thankful heart. Oh, answer me, I beg of you! Lead on!
Hank is, when he goes into Christmas morning and, you know, he's happy, I think he's so lovable because you can definitely tell that he's somebody who's turned that corner and he's gonna, you know, really just be a good friend to everybody. And you can definitely see that on his face and just his instant transformation into like the nicest guy you've ever met.
The curtains, they're not torn down, they're here. I'm here. Oh, heaven and Christmas time be praised. The shadows of things that would have been maybe dispelled. Well, they will be, they must, they have to be. Oh my, I don't know. What day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits. I don't know anything. I'm like a baby. Never mind, another baby.
The way he opens up, and I play him a little sentimental at the end, and there's a scene with his nephew where he has really blocked out his family. There's a moment, and it gets to me so much because I look at him and I say, "You have the eyes of your mother," and it just kind of breaks my heart, but it fills it with love. When it breaks open, it's filled with love.
Bless my soul, Uncle Scrooge. Yes, it is your uncle. I've come to accept your invitation to dinner. You have the eyes of your mother. Thank you, nephew. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, Uncle. Come see the 16th annual production of Theater Charlotte's A Christmas Carol. We're excited to share this show with you at 501 Queens Road again.
I hope I will see you there. I better see you there. You better be there.
They give you the razzle dazzle.
Why? Yeah.
I have
it every time. People are clicking it off right now. People are refunding their tickets right now.
They came for the razzle and for the dazzle, and that's what we're gonna give them.
They're gonna get it.
And they're gonna get it, by golly.
I'm so sorry.
This year's cast brings something new and fresh, and I can't wait for you to see it.
Tickets are on sale. The show runs December 9th through the 18th.
A Christmas Carol opens December 9th. It is the first time back in the building. It is a holiday tradition. It is a Theater Charlotte tradition, and you should see it and welcome us back to our building, our home.